In a world where digital currencies reign supreme, one cryptocurrency is poised to redefine the game, no? Litecoin's resurrection and resurgence is coming, and the Litecoin forecast is your 24/7 guide to riding this silver surge. Join us as we stream continuously, analyzing every move, discussing macroeconomic trends, what's driving this bull market, what narratives will come into play as we move higher, and what we'll be watching for signs of a broad market top T. The Litecoin forecast illuminating the path to redemption, hosted by Y Litecoin, joining us now.
What is up, guys? How's it going? Hocom, yo, Marcus Wilson, let's go. Everyone's excited today. The price went up. We're gonna have Clint on here in like 30 minutes. And that's the first time we're doing an interview for this live stream. But if you guys know him, or if you don't know him, he's at Clint Westwood on X. Yeah, this is him. He's been in the Litecoin community for a long time. Really cool guy, so we'll get his perspective. And maybe he'll tell us about his story, how he got involved. Good day, bro. How's Singapore? Is it hot? I wonder if the climate's similar to where I'm at. I should actually turn off my camera. It's black, but we'll talk about the short-term time frame price action that we just got since yesterday. I'm gonna go over what we went over 24 hours ago. Update to now, and then see where we're headed here on low time frames. I'm just waiting until a few more people jump in here. But appreciate you guys always showing up. What I plan to do and how I'm trying to structure this is, you know, there's a lot of sub Litecoin communities around, like smaller. So I'm trying to get everyone to kind of converge into one giant Litecoin community, because they all have their different perspectives. You know, I think communities form around certain ideas, and so there's differing views within the Litecoin community, but I was trying to create something where we had the technical analysis, which I know a lot of people are interested in, fundamental analysis, sort of all of the various perspectives people have about the chain. Then hopefully grow it enough to where we start getting picked up by these algorithms on YouTube and X, so that we can attract like a broader set of people. That's the goal. What's up, Clint? Happy Wednesday, Crypto Warriors. Litecoin community is definitely in the warrior category. It's been a grind, but that shall be rewarded. I think a few people are in here, enough at least, to start talking about this stuff, and we got about 25 minutes or so. So on the lower time frames here, yesterday we were talking about we closed in a 9 on the TD sequential, at least on the 4-hour time frame, and that most often this leads to at least a short-term reversal like we saw back here on November 21st. I said in the Discord, and if you guys haven't joined the Discord, I can post the link. But we've been talking about shorter term price stuff, and then random questions that people have. And like 80% is just posting memes. But it made sense for us to start correcting here. We were on a 9 on the 1-hour time frame. It's a logical place to expect some sideways consolidation. I don't really like the way this has been kind of just grinding higher, but this can start moving impulsively vertically anytime. And I still think that that time is coming based on our comprehensive analysis of supply restriction. Like we were talking about yesterday, the miner reserves basically declining to 0. And I was looking at that again today. So this is the CBD spot data that we were looking at on Coinalyze yesterday. That miner had like 100k coins after this previous dump, and this declined about 100k to the bottom here. So it's possible we won't see any more selling now from them. It just kind of depended, I think, on the broader market just holding up. Bitcoin did have a nice rally today. Back to the place you'd, oops, I have this here, expect some short-term consolidation. So we'll see if this can hold up. Probably meander sideways a little bit. But what's probably most important to pay attention to, and what somebody asked a question about in the Discord, was these pair charts, especially LTC BTC. So it's still following what XLM had done. And on the indicators that I track, everything looks pretty healthy, even down to like the 4-hour time frame. So this is still curling up, grinding higher. This is the last like lower time frame area of resistance. And if we can grind up here, if we break out, it should be the start of our move above 105, 110, 115. That starts that, what I think most likely to be the vertical price action. So we'll see what can happen in the next couple days, but the way this is developing looks pretty promising, at least to me. On all the from the 4-hour to the daily to the weekly, it looks, actually it's better to look at Coinbase for LTC BTC because there's way more volume. And so on the weekly, we just crossed above the 0 line here on the CMF, which last time we did that convincingly was back in our late 2022 rally. These 3 weekly candles in a row forms a pattern called like the 3 white soldiers in classical charting techniques. So if we close the weekly like this, that'd be pretty bullish. The last time we did that was actually the previous 2 times we rallied in 2021 and 2017. So we had 3 weekly LTC BTC green candles in a row with pretty high volatility and high wicks up and down, similar to what we just had. Generally, you get this high volatility before an explosive move, which again is why I think the price action looks pretty constructive before the this type of move. And again, I think it'll be much more extreme than 2017. Volatility compression is higher. Network activity is 100 times higher. There's more divergence between network activity and price. And miners have no coins. There's that supply restriction. Like it's really not going to take much money once this starts going to push price pretty fast. So that's good to see. ETH actually broke out today. So this still looks bullish on the higher time frames. Still looks fine on the daily. Hopefully this support can hold. We're just retesting this level from the 22nd, about a week ago. I think it's likely to. We're getting so close. Funding rates, last kind of short-term indicator, have declined, which is generally a bullish sign. So we've been declining ever since this recent peak at 105. Still heavily down from where we were at in March. So on a relative basis, it looks healthy. What do you guys think of this short-term price action today? Is it making you bullish? I know people had commented that we're going back to $80 here. While that still could happen, I think it's looking less likely. I'm not convinced that this is going to immediately rally higher. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But if we start approaching this level, or break out against the Bitcoin pair, I would have a higher degree of confidence. What last thing to note on the TD sequential is generally when you're on a 9, if this is a continuation pattern, you'd see like a 4 candle correction. So it's been about 4. We'll see if we can start moving higher shortly. Defo making it bullish in your opinion? Bullish, we're not going lower than 87. Yeah, I would tend to agree. It's hard to know with short-term time frames, but given the fact that the major seller that was pushing down price previously has not been able to move price significantly during this rally, like on the weekly time frame, this looks far more bullish than it did back here in 2023 and 9 months ago in March. Right, we had this major wick back down to $71, and here price just struggled pretty heavily. This trend looks much stronger. No insane weekly or pullbacks on the weekly time frame. For this week, the 2-week candle forming will be green. Let's look at the 2-week time frame. It looks like it will once it close. So after next week. Yep. CMF looks bullish. Breaking out to new highs. I was marking off resistance because again somebody asked about questions. If this or asked questions about where the next area of resistance was on the LTC BTC pair. If we pull up XLM BTC, it made a similar move right back to where it broke down in 2021 and where it found support in 2019. So this to me is the most likely to move back to the 2022 highs, which would be on the dollar pair 350% move higher. Should be new all-time highs. Roughly, right? Just above. But yeah, anyone that feels silly for buying Litecoin the last 2 years might not feel so dumb after they outperform Bitcoin, potentially in a couple of weeks. I feel very bullish whenever the price is going up. I know that's everyone. I think we need to try to contain the emotions. I feel it too. Like everyone I think feels that, but it's important to like be cognizant of what you're feeling and not feel bearish on times when we're moving down, especially given all the data that we have in front of us. Right, as long as something doesn't change dramatically with the broader market, can't expect anyone that's been holding on this long to immediately panic if they haven't panicked the last few times. And the only known entity that's been responsible for price decreases is totally out of the market. We still haven't seen transaction activity increase that much, and that's primarily because the Bitcoin mempool hasn't filled up. So Litecoin's just consolidating around 200,000 transactions a day. What I still think is most likely is that these fee levels will move to all-time highs upon a parabolic blow off when a lot of the long-term holders from 2017 and 2021 start selling their Bitcoin. That usually happens in the final 3-4 months of the cycle, and that's what I think is coming. Yeah, if they held it this long, they're most likely not going to give up. They had years to chase meme coins. I think a lot of people did that, but the few that are still here are unlikely to sell it. And if the move is near vertical, right, what happens in these crypto markets is nobody's selling, right? All the people who wanted to sell sold the last 3 years, such that we're at a point in the cycle where all this capital is rotating into the markets. It's getting attention. You know, you're seeing people take money out of their brokerage accounts, stocks, and move it to crypto. And so if you have no one selling, everyone washed out, that are, you know, everyone who was going to sell sold out prior. Miners don't have any coins. If we move back to all-time highs in a couple weeks, I still don't think a lot of the long-term holders will be dumping coins. So it might act as short-term resistance. But given the idea that we're likely to see large increases in fundamental demand for network activity in Litecoin in the final stages of this bull market, it should just be short-term resistance here. Well, let's see how the next week or so plays out. You're not selling at all-time high? Yeah, I am not going to be selling either. It's more of a time frame thing for me. So we'll see if we can get this move to all-time highs and consolidate above. Then I think the area to look to take profits are on that final leg higher. These can extend farther and more dramatically than people imagine. We've just never seen a setup like this in the history of crypto ever. Where miner reserves are this depleted, long-term holders are this high, and we actually have a network that's not just purely speculative. Has the highest level of divergence between price and network activity that any chain's really ever seen. The narrative is so divergent from reality, right? The broader market still thinks Litecoin is useless copy chain, which leads to the opportunity, right? And anyone who had been buying back here, if we do get this rally back to its kind of transaction value, will make a lot of money. And it's not just this that's making me bullish, it's the future demand for Litecoin, because these are a lot of these transactions are pretty low value. I still think it's undervalued by about 4x, so all-time highs would be a fair value in my head today based on today's network activity. But in a speculative bubble where capital tends to chase things that go up, and where Litecoin's positioned to grow, you know, potentially to full blocks. I don't know if we'll get there, but it has 10x capacity, so it can increase transactions 10x just on the main chain, and then you have Mimblewimble as well. Plus the idea that if Bitcoin fees go to $100 plus, you're going to monetize not these low value transactions, but much higher value. So if you increase transactions by 5x, the transaction value increases by 10 to 20x, which I think is possible given where Bitcoin transaction distribution is. That should reflect in like a 50x increase in price, not even accounting for the speculation or the supply side illiquidity. I wanted to show this because I noticed and posted it on Twitter. The MWeb balance just rocketed up here to 140,000 coins, the largest increase we've seen. Might have just been one person or one entity. But it's interesting to see. This growth has been parabolic. Definitely bullish because these coins are locked up. $96 is the new 69. Yeah, I think 96 is the new $4 level from 2017. Oh shit, 144,000 or 1.44 million. what is it at? 140,000. Yeah. Yeah, it's growing much faster than the Lightning Network grew in terms of total percentage of the supply being on the Lightning Network versus MWeb. Growing much faster in a shorter amount of time with less funding, less marketing, less hype. That's how you know it might actually be valuable. If you take a look at the transaction chart, it's growing as well. So this giant increase in coins in MWeb, but transaction growth, it's kind of just steadily bumping up every few months. So we're at this consolidation range to be a higher level. This is really like a second Litecoin chain attached to the main chain. So capacity for growth is really high. Cool to see. But I think with more wallets supporting MWeb and the fact that I think they dropped the charges on that Tornado Cash coin mixer. Somebody was saying that that might be the reason why we saw 40,000 increase in balance on MWeb. Could be bullish. Yeah, thanks for hanging out here, guys. They're locked up just because I don't think that many people are sending MWeb coins to exchanges. And so people transacting on MWeb are just doing it peer-to-peer natively to each other. Some, I don't know, really. I know Binance just doesn't support MWeb. So, like, if you're a Binance customer, which they're the largest exchange in the world, you're not going to be sending coins to sell unless you move it back to the main chain. And I don't know if Coinbase supports MWeb or not. Yeah, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. It helps it out quite a bit. This is just starting. So any likes and shares really help the channel grow. I have a few minutes. Clint's in here now. I can we can maybe just add him to the room. Right now I don't have much else to really talk about. There's some short-term price action stuff since yesterday. So much less stress with Litecoin at 4,000. Yeah, I think all of us. Feels like this Thanksgiving might be different. It might be pretty bullish since crypto's kind of receiving. I don't feel like we're at euphoric stages. It's kind of the early innings of prices really starting to move. Where Google search interest is just breaking out. We saw XLM Stellar, which has a similar price chart to Litecoin, break above its 2021 high. So this is what I think we're going to see with Litecoin. It's still below its 2017 high, got a ways to go. But Bitcoin, for example, still well below euphoria. Can you go over your time frame process? Yeah, I can do that real quick before I add Clint in here. So time frame for me is based upon multiple things. What do I need to see happen to change my time frame perspective? I don't know if much could really change my time frame perspective. Partially, at least the crypto related stuff that would make the most sense is based on timings of when we convincingly break the all-time high in Bitcoin. This is when broad awareness typically starts to set in. and people pay attention to crypto, start moving money into crypto. And that's when Bitcoin dominance tends to roll over, and you see altcoins outperform by a pretty large margin. So I'd say we're similar to late December, early January. So if you look at this, we had 3 weekly closes, pretty dramatic green, positive weekly candles in a row for Bitcoin after the break of all-time highs at 20K back in December 14th. And then the 4th week was where altcoins, the top performing altcoins really started to move. So like Dogecoin of last cycle really started its rally here. That's why I'm expecting Litecoin to start pretty soon. And then to the top for this cycle was in like May of 2021 for altcoins. Some of them went on to make new highs in November, but just take Dogecoin for example. It topped the first week of May in 2021. So it was January 4th through May. It was about 140 days. Just take this. So 3-4 months until the all-time high was met. And in 2017, like the top performing alt was XRP. The vast majority of the move happened really quickly. So it really started early March till May, and then we had one final blow off. We had a long-term consolidation over the summer in 2017 with like one final move over the span of a month. But I'm thinking, based on where we're at from like a macroeconomic perspective, we've had this crazy stock market rally. It should end in a parabolic blow off top, and I think based on like the manufacturing indexes I watch, the global liquidity cycle charts that I look at, which I could find for next stream, it's aligning with about a March timeframe top for Bitcoin. You generally see altcoins run a few months after, so it wouldn't surprise me for certain alts to top after Bitcoin does, but Litecoin historically has topped right around the same time as Bitcoin. What's up, Ellen Matthew? Seems new to streaming? Yeah, definitely new to streaming. It's been a couple weeks. Okay, I will add Clint in here. Elijah says it's crazy how when we search Litecoin, it doesn't show Litecoin, but shows Bitcoin. Yeah, maybe they'll change that once Litecoin becomes a little bit more popular. Okay, Clint, I should be able to hear you now.
All right, testing. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes, sir.
Awesome, sounds good. Hey, you might want to back the background music down just a little bit.
Oh,
I don't know how it sounds on the YouTube, but I mean with...
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're fine. I mean, yeah, that's a little better.
Yeah, how's it going? How are you doing?
Pretty good. Are you sure you want me to come into this and get all raucous? You know, I'm hanging out at the bar here.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I think that's the type of vibe we should go for.
Yeah, man. We get some people in here and have a good time right before Thanksgiving. You gave me a reason to come out to the bar. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming despite Thanksgiving being tomorrow.
No, it's all good. I'm not doing anything tonight.
Yeah, I thought it would be cool to have various perspectives from a lot of the like hardcore people that have been in the community for a long time. Well, I'm curious because I don't know your actual date of when you got involved, but I know we've talked throughout the years.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious on how you got involved in the space early on, if you don't mind sharing.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. First of all, if you want to, you know, I've documented my history for quite a while, so you can go check out my YouTube channel. The easiest way to find me is if you go to clintwestwood.net, go to my website. Very bare bones. It's got great content out there, how to make a paper wallet, a few videos, all kinds of good information, but it also has links to, at the top there left, where you can find me on YouTube, find me on X, Twitter. And then if we do any meetups, which we have like meetups where people can come and meet up and get crypto for free, set people up with Litecoin wallets, and I send them some Litecoin. I have a calendar at the top left. We don't plan anything else this year, but next year in the spring, we'll be doing more. And no, that pretty much tells you everything, that I'm into.
Awesome.
But yeah, no, cool. So anybody check that out. It's a good resource. I just put it out there because, it's hard to find good resources and everything's so scattered. And this is kind of a good starting point if you're getting into crypto.
Oh, for sure. I didn't know this actually existed. This is really cool.
I know. And see, I just do it myself. I'm an old school, HTML, a little bit kind of coder, so I don't use any fancy tools. I'm just like typing the stuff in text files and uploading it, so I'm like way old school.
It actually makes it more easy to find stuff.
Yeah, I try to do that. There's nothing flashy. There's no advertisements, just raw content. And that's what I'm all about, kind of old school Drudge Report style, maybe.
Yeah, that's very cool. When you guys do these roadshow tours, is it all over the US or is it typically just...
No, lately, well, in this bear cycle, I guess, it all changes because you see things come and go. The money flows and the money doesn't flow. And like in 2000... This ties into my whole journey. But in 2021, we did a lot of stuff. Litecoin Lisa Davis, she's got a YouTube channel, and we do a happy hour every Friday night. We've been doing it for years now. And, I'll be in the bar, she'll be at her place, and we'll talk about everything. And we went on the road and did meetups in 2021 pretty much every month. Because you could afford to go, and we had some people that would sponsor it and, just basically pay the bills to get us to places. And then we would, I'd give a crypto class, kind of teach people how to get into wallets and, like I said, set them up and send them Litecoin, see how easy it is and how quick it is. Fees are low, it's just a perfect thing to send and, bite your, cut your teeth on. Because you couldn't send Bitcoin or Ethereum, it cost you too much in transaction fees. So we did a lot of that in 2021, and since then, 2022, 3, and this year, I've kind of kept it close to home. And I'm in Illinois, so I'll have meetups here locally, and people come from all over the place. I mean, we built quite a good little community. We got people coming from Puerto Rico, California this last time, Oklahoma, Michigan, Ohio. All over the place, and it's just a great group of people that are freedom-minded and get what crypto really is about, and that's kind of why I'm into Litecoin, because I hate to use a cliche, but I'm in it for the sound money. I mean, seriously, that's kind of why I'm in it. And so my journey, if we rewind all the way, I was into silver. I knew the Federal Reserve System's a joke growing up, knew that, we're getting robbed, we're getting, inflation is killing us. We've got no control over it. It's not based on sound money at all. And so I was kind of a silver guy. Gold was too expensive. I saw silver as very undervalued as far as, a store of wealth compared to gold. And I look at the ratios coming out of the earth, it's like 8-to-1, gold to silver. It didn't make sense to me why that was so overvalued, gold. So I looked at silver as kind of hey, this is at least a hedge against the dollar, the Federal Reserve note. And then crypto came along, and I heard about it, never really got into it. And I remember when I got into it finally, I bit the bullet because I'd been, 2013 kind of looking at it. And in 2013, my second daughter, she was still in the womb, and we're sitting in the doctor's office ready for an appointment. I'm sitting next to my wife. I got a laptop out. I'm looking at Coinbase. I see this Bitcoin. I'm like, I hadn't been watching it. I'm watching it start to pump a little bit. And I'm like, dang, I should get some of this stuff. What am I doing? Why don't I have any? And at the time, I bought some Bitcoin. It was like $400 to $500. And then, you can look at the chart, but it got to the point where I looked at that and I started looking at other coins, and I got into Litecoin a little bit, and I said, man, the fundamentals of this thing look really good. It kind of, it's faster. There's 4 times, it's way undervalued compared to Bitcoin, kind of like gold to silver for me. And, so I bought Litecoin, and I remember I bought 10 Litecoin, put it on a paper wallet, printed off a nice paper wallet offline, saved it, threw it in the safe. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to hang on to this. And if you look, I probably bought it at the peak in like 2013, 14, whenever that was. If you go back and look at the charts, I mean, you'll see that it looks tiny on the chart now, but that wick up, that's when I bought it. So, like $50 or something, like high 40s, 10 of them. And I held on to it, and not until 2017, and I dabbled around with exchanges and this, lost money on exchanges. Cryptsy.com, I had like 105 Darkcoin, which became Dash. Lost those because the guy ran off with the money. And then in 2017, Dash goes to $1,000. And I'm like, oh man, I had 105 of those. That's a lot of money. So I kind of learned my lesson early on. But with Bitcoin and Litecoin, I held them a little bit. And then, when Bitcoin doubled, like really at the beginning, from when I bought it, the beginning of 2017, I said, you know what, I'm getting out of this because I really didn't believe in it yet. I didn't really get my head around it. I had all that time and I just kind of went through that cycle. And, I dumped it and bought silver with it. I thought, man, I doubled my money. I won, baby. And Litecoin, once it hit a little over 50, I'm like, I'm going to get my money out of it because I just don't know. And so as I did that, I said, did I make the right decision? And so I really started questioning. I really started doing my research, doing my homework, and realized, and once I got my head around it, all the fundamentals of Bitcoin at the time and then Litecoin, it just screamed to me that, hey, we're going into a digital world here. Everything's digital. We need digital money that actually works, that we can possess and we can trade. And we can go peer to peer, the white paper, just like it says, the Satoshi white paper. And that's really what got me into it hardcore. And since then, I've just been, pedal to the metal. And I'm just 100%, man. I think Litecoin definitely is, and I say it many times, it is sound money for the digital age. And you look at everything that's been built into it with Mimblewimble. You were just talking about Mimblewimble on exchanges. I do a lot of testing with it. Coinbase will not take a Mimblewimble transaction. They'll eat it. But PayPal and Venmo will do that. And you can send it via Mimblewimble directly to your PayPal Litecoin wallet and Venmo wallet. They will accept it, and then you can then do what you want with it. You can turn it into fiat, hold it, transfer it somewhere else. So those two do work with Mimblewimble. So that's something to look at.
Gotcha. That's cool. It's helpful for me too.
Right. And so what I'll do, my daughter's in college, and if she ever needs money or something, because I have no money, I have no cash in the bank. I'm like cash poor. I've been, pretty much as unbanked as I can possibly be, other than paying bills and getting paid, from an employer. But it goes right out. And if my daughter needs money and I don't have any cash, because it's like I got physical cash, but I don't keep anything in the banks because I don't trust that. If she needs some money, sometimes I'll send her some Litecoin, and I can send it via Venmo, and she can get it, and I send it out of Mimblewimble, Venmo to her account, and then she can, put it on a debit card, turn it into fiat, and spend it, So it's got a use case. It works. I mean, I saw Johnny Litecoin today talking about Starbucks not able to process, transactions with credit cards, and those systems don't always work. Litecoin's worked for over 13 years nonstop. I like that. It's never failed, and so it's a big proponent of it.
Yeah, it's cool to hear your story because mine's similar in that I got into it like pretty early for the same sort of reasons, and I had a long-term vision. But it seems like it's changed quite a bit. Like the 2013, 2014 era, most people were getting involved in the cryptocurrency space. They were more the libertarian-minded, untrustful of government, even through 2017. And then it seems like there's been a giant shift from 2017 to now, where there's been more interest in just pump and dumping things and these proof of stake chains that are very similar to the political monies that we deal with now. But it's my opinion that, as people continue to lose trust in governments, as we have more financial problems, that we'll see a resurgence in interest in these kind of sound money ideals. And if these networks keep getting adopted, even though the market's not paying attention to it, eventually those fundamentals that we've focused on will matter. I know there's this narrative that fundamentals in crypto don't matter at all anymore, because everyone's, gambling.
Well, they don't matter until they need to matter, and I guess that's what it comes down to.
Is that what you think? Do you think that 100%. At some point, people will feel the pain, kind of learn the hard way, and then recognize what's valuable and what's not?
Well, I think so, because you can only kick the can so long. And I mean, they're definitely kicking the can now, hey, give us your Bitcoin, we'll custody it. I saw Coinbase today said, hey, you can do crypto transactions, or what was it? It was PayPal, I think. Yeah, you can do crypto transactions from PayPal to Venmo and back and forth with no fees. Well, yeah, because it's just a ledger entry on their books. They're not moving the Bitcoin. You know what I mean? And so I think that's what the world that they're ushering us into, is because at some point, you brought it up, I think you brought it up before, I'm sure you have, but at some point the fees are going to have to support Bitcoin. Now that may be, a couple generations down the road. I don't know where it's going to end up to work, but we see it. We see the, the early underpinnings of it to where it gets really expensive to move your Bitcoin. Unless you got a lot of Bitcoin, it's a lot of money to move it. You know, if you're just a small guy that's got a few $1,000s in Bitcoin because Michael Saylor told you to get into it and that's the best thing ever, you know, well, I mean, if you get a $100 transaction fee and you only got a couple $1,000, that's a big hit if you just want to take a little bit out, you know, to fix something. And so, I mean, the solution that they're going to present you with is, hey, we'll just hang on to it for you. Don't worry about it. You know, well, that's completely antithesis or antithetical to what the Bitcoin white paper is. We're supposed to be having our own money and having this new technology that allows us to, you know, circumvent banks and governments and be peer-to-peer and, you know, have money for the people. Well, we're just handing it right back to them. You know, it's just another vampire casino that they're taking control of the new vampire chips. And, you know, I got a problem with that. And that's why I don't even talk about Bitcoin anymore. I just don't, because I see where it's going. I can't. You know, I can't do it.
It's hard for me too. I think, you know, what the strategy could be on that end of things is that they kind of successfully did that with gold, right? They created these gold ETFs. They got custody of a lot of people's gold, and then they kind of banned it from people being able to hold it privately. And so once they controlled the gold, then they could issue paper against the gold and say, hey, you know, like,
it's fine.
Don't worry, we'll back it 1-to-1. But you have no way to audit the supply. If you don't actually transact with the gold, you don't know if the government's issuing more paper. And then you end up on the same type of fiat monetary system. So, like, you're right. And I think that inevitably people will have to realize that. I think it's less likely, even though Michael Saylor and all these guys are promoting it as this, you know, we're going to have a Bitcoin reserve and everyone's going to be, the government's going to be more fiscally responsible if they're just on a Bitcoin standard. Unless the people actually possess their coins and force the government to be fiscally responsible, it's not going to happen. They're going to try to go down that same path.
Right. They'll get all this Bitcoin and then it'll be just like gold. It's like, well, we have it. It's in Fort Knox, but we're not going to audit it.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And
trust our dollars that we create, though. You know, it's backed by something.
Exactly. And I think that's what all the that's what all the maximalists are kind of betting on, is that we're going to repeat history. But I think people trust government a lot less today than they did back in the 1970s, 1960s, 50s. Like, we had less a more fiscally responsible government back then. And so to me, it's hard to imagine if we have, you know, worse financial health in the United States and the rest of the world, really, because everyone's kind of followed the same path of going into more and more debt through manipulating interest rates lower, that I don't think they're going to be able to control the narrative, especially with the internet and social media. And now that Elon has X, it's going to be hard. So I think that's what keeps me bullish on multiple chains long term, like Litecoin, because we talked about, you know, if this is actually going to be monetized and people are going to use it as money, despite the marketing efforts of like Lightning Network and credit layer solutions, we've seen what's getting adopted, and this isn't happening. It is happening, but it's not happening at the scale to which it's going to impact price too much. But should we see rising fees, it will eventually. Yeah. And my thoughts long term is that, you know, if demand is as high for Bitcoin as a lot of people expect, then we're going to see these two networks converge in network activity and then price. So it's an extremely bullish setup for.
Oh, absolutely. All the numbers, the lower mining, you know, supply. I mean, you've talked about it. Look what we had in 2021, like 13 million Litecoin the miners held. Now we're under 2, getting close to 1 million. There's, you know, it's getting distributed, I guess, you know, in hands other than that central cluster. And it happens every cycle. 2017, 2021, the fees on Bitcoin, on Ethereum go up, and people are like, "What the frick, man? I can't even, all these tokens, you know, that I have, I can't move on Ethereum because the fee is as much as the token that I'm going to get back." And the same with Bitcoin. It's like, I got $500 in Bitcoin, I want to move and put it on an exchange or do this with it. And it's like, hey, it's $75 for a transaction. This is ridiculous. And you get mad. I get mad every time I have to use Bitcoin. I get really angry and frustrated. I'm like, I'm done with this. I said I was done with it. I'm done with it. You know, and every time I have to use it, that's how I feel. It's so frustrating. And I think that's what changes the narrative, because Litecoin's just sitting there doing what it needs to do. I mean, if you use it,
interact with it,
exactly. Once you use it, there's no going back. You're like, I ain't never using that again for anything.
For sure. And I think for most people, like 10-minute confirmation times are a little bit long for that first confirmation. Even though Litecoin 2.5-minute confirmation is slightly less secure for the vast majority of transactions, unless you're transacting more than like $1 million, one confirmation is probably enough.
I agree. I mean, you've had a chain that, it's got look at the hash power. I mean, on Litecoin, and now you've got with Dogecoin, and everybody, putting hash power into this network. I mean, to me, it's just they're doing, it's doing everything right. And, to fix the issues that are out there with, that Bitcoin has. I see Litecoin as something that network is doing it all right. And it's never failed. It's been running for over. XRP just had a problem yesterday where they didn't confirm blocks. They had some issue that I don't even know what it was. There was a little outage and somebody was bragging. Well, it was only it's been up for 0.9998% of the time. And I'm like, well, the ATMs work all the time and they always spit the money out. Why can't, this network run? What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
XRP never, it's not really a decentralized network.
No, half the coins are still held somewhere by somebody else.
Yeah, half the coins are held. I know they have these lockup contracts or whatever, but who knows, right? You have risk of that huge supply dumping on you. And I don't even understand really how, even if they're going to tokenize assets on XRP or use it for this Fed wire system, how that would drive value to the chain, because we see things like Tron who have billions and billions of dollars of USDT volume on them. They're sending such a little amount of Tron to attach this other asset, the dollar, to it, that it's not really moving the price. So I think there's still like pumping and dumping going on with those tokens by large whales that want to incite FOMO.
Well, sure. Everybody comes out of the woodwork. It's like, oh, it's going to this price, that price. I mean, I guess, yeah, if you monetize, and this is an argument that I love, and you can do the same thing with XRP, any chain for that matter. But you see with Bitcoin, well, if all the gold were denominated in Bitcoin, if all the world's assets were denominated in Bitcoin, if all the real estate, whatever, it's like, but not all that's going to be denominated in one thing. I mean, it isn't now. I mean, you can make the argument that it's the dollar, but I mean, it's just not going to be that one size fits all thing. I mean, it just can't be, because I mean, you can't transfer that kind of value all the time. I mean, look at the stock market, all the trades that happen. I mean, you're going to put it all on Bitcoin and expect to, make real-time transactions and settle at the end of the day. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Layer 2, Lightning has failed. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, that's been a complete disaster. That's not the answer.
For sure. I wonder what your perspective on this is, but my theory, or at least analogy, I think silver to gold is a decent analogy, but for me, these are basically the same money. So I look at them more like different denominations within the same currency. So like if Bitcoin was a $100 bill, Litecoin would be like a $10 bill. Yeah. Or you could say Bitcoin is like those Brinks armored trucks, and for sending $10, you don't need that crazy level of security, right? You're going to pay $1,000 to have someone transfer $10. Right. So at some point when people are actually using them, they will arbitrage security for cost. So like they will only pay for what they need, and people just don't realize this yet because we're in a speculative market and there's all these narratives and marketing. Most people don't even use the Bitcoin chain itself. They just
they don't.
So if we ever get into an environment where we will use these as money, which I think eventually happens, then the market will realize that. And the narratives are so far off from reality that it baffles my mind sometimes.
Yeah, to me, it just comes down to the market will fix itself. I mean, people are the market, and when people have to actually use it, when it becomes necessary to use this stuff, you're going to find out really quickly that some things work for you and some things don't. I found that out in 2017. Bitcoin didn't really work for me. So I just, as a store of value, if you're a nation state, if you're a big corporation, and, you're moving $1 million, $10 million, $1 billion on the chain, it's not such a big deal. The transaction fee is irrelevant. Even Sailor's talked about that, to where it's like, it doesn't matter if it's a $500 transaction fee. Well, it does if you only got like $2,000 in it, or 10 grand even. I mean, it's a big deal to have to move it and pay $500 every time. I mean, that's not sustainable for the average person, for most people in the world. And when people actually have to start using it and they start getting bit, I mean, you saw what Swan Bitcoin now, their custodian says, well, we need an admin fee of $125 to hold the Bitcoin for you now. And so they're going to get eaten up with these transaction fees. They're going to get eaten up. And people will understand at some point what works and what doesn't work. Is it easier to walk down the street, your analogy, with $100 bill and pay somebody? Or is it easier to have $10 bills? And some places don't take $100 bills, and so it's just like buying a big silver bar versus buying, a kilo bar versus buying, 1 ounce bars. It's a lot more liquid, a lot easier to move than this chunk that, there's a lot of kind of wrapped up into it. And, and it's hard to do. Not everybody can accept that. You got to go to certain people who can accept that. And that's where kind of the transaction fee in my mind comes into play. Not everybody's going to take it. I mean, you can't divide it up into a small amount. It's like all or nothing. And I'm not willing to go all or nothing. I want something liquid, something that works. I use Litecoin all the time. I use it on these platforms. I mean, I'm fine doing that. I've never had an issue.
I was always thinking that, we'd move into using these monies a lot sooner. What were your thoughts like back from 2017 and expectations versus now? And where do you see us kind of heading in the next few years in terms of that kind of concept, like using it as money versus just continuing to speculate?
Right now a lot of it is speculation, definitely, no doubt about it. Because to me, what gives something value, it's can it be used, and can it be used easily? Is it liquid? Is it usable on a daily basis for a person? In 2017, I was very hopeful that at the grassroots level. I talked to a lot of people, and I still do. If I want to buy something, a big purchase, I use the example many times. People that know me, I've said it many times. Last December, I had somebody come out here and give a quote on a solar panel installation. It's like all the solar benefits. You have these companies popping up, and they're coming to the door, knocking all the time. And so I sat down with one of them. I said, all right, let me hear what you got. It ended up being, hey, we can cover like 80% of your electric bills. And, by putting the solar, setup in, it was like $66,000. And I'm like, that ain't going to happen. But I said, I'll tell you what. Go back to your owner and ask him, will he take Litecoin as payment? And I said that specifically. Will he take Litecoin as payment? I didn't say crypto. I didn't say Bitcoin. I said Litecoin specifically. He called me back like a week and a half later, and he said, kind of in shock, really. He was kind of, he said he'll take Litecoin as payment. And I said, well, what's he going to use to turn it back into cash? Because I was curious, what platform, he's using. And he said, well, he just wants the Litecoin. He's not going to trade it back into dollars. He just wants the Litecoin. So I got dogs out here. Yeah, so to me, that's a win. And if I had not asked that question, hey, come on. If I had not asked that question, you wouldn't know. And so asking merchants, asking vendors, hey, Philly, come on. Asking vendors the question, will you accept cryptocurrency? Will you accept Litecoin is the first step. And I think we need to start doing that. I'll take Litecoin for anything. Hang on just a second.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's been
a dogs here, baby.
How many dogs do you have?
I just have 2 out here, but I got one that's part husky and she can't shut up, Oh,
that's cool. I like your bar setup. I actually was gonna try to come to one of your meetups.
Yeah, you need to. Yeah, we'll have another one every year in June, and then usually in October I'll have 2. We'll just see if things really start running. Maybe we'll have a one in March or something,
Yeah, we should do.
Yeah,
we should do
all-time high.
Yeah.
Blow off top, and we'll light the Charlie Lee candle.
Yeah. We should all
cigars.
meet up and light all of our candles. I think John has like 20 of them that he's gonna light.
It's gonna be like a freaking church.
Yeah.
We'll light them all up, Confess our sins of the last 7 years.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry to get sidetracked. I was gonna ask you.
No, that's fine.
About. You have some experience, as well as some other people in the community, about going to these businesses and asking them if they'll accept crypto or Litecoin specifically. I know Johnny Litecoin, who's going to come on here.
Yeah, he's done it
next week. He has done that. Do you know if those have stuck around? Like the people that they've gotten to accept crypto have continued to support it? Because I know there was some early success, and then I haven't heard much about it in the last few years.
Yeah, and I think it got frustrating. I think for Johnny, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think it got frustrating with the whole Operation Choke Point thing. 2.0 specifically. A lot, and we saw that today. Gavin Andreessen on Elon Musk. I get them confused. I don't know which one's which anymore. They're all on the same team. Joe Rogan's podcast. Talking about that and how, bank accounts get shut down just because you're involved in crypto. Oh, you can't get a loan because, you got a crypto business. And it scared a lot of people away. And I mean, that is like, again, the one thing that we don't want to happen, to where the government can just come in and tell us, hey, you're running a marijuana shop that's legal in your state, but you can't get a bank account. I mean, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And so to me, you would think that you'd want to go full bore. Put it this way, sum it up. The people that believe in crypto still take the crypto. Most of the people don't, because they're afraid that everything they're tied to and all their licenses, their businesses are going to get shut down and they're going to get squashed, COVID style, to where, sorry, you can't open your doors because you're taking crypto. But I think if that gets regulated, that's beneficial. But again, on the other side, I mean, why regulate the stuff? To me, the money side of it, Bitcoin, Litecoin, why are you regulating that stuff? That's money to me. That's sound money. It's outside them. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm going to use it. Just leave me alone. I mean, it's running on its own network. It's just computer code. It's First Amendment stuff. It's just words. F you. So I don't know. Businesses kind of get scared, but the people that get it, I mean, what better way to get cryptocurrency than having to go to an exchange and go through all that hoopla and wait? Because I got somebody now that's telling me, I got to wait 10 days before Coinbase lets me have my money in my account. I mean, if you're running a business and you get cryptocurrency, you got it. And there's no chargebacks. I mean, you have it. It's like digital cash, and you can do whatever you want with it at that point. And so to me, we got to build out that ecosystem, freedom money. That's the important thing going forward, because what I see going forward, you asked me, in the next few years, I see total digital enslavement. And they're gonna do it with a soft glove. I mean, if the other side had won, it'd be, oh my gosh, we'd be fighting tooth and nail. These people are horrible. Elizabeth Warren, all these people are terrible. But the thing is, we love crypto. Crypto's great. However, I mean, we could find ourselves kind of sleepwalking into a digital enslavement system that we kind of disarmed ourselves. I think the most important thing, no matter who's in control, we have to be in control of our money, our energy, because that's what crypto gives us. And so we've got to find local businesses and start using it and start going peer-to-peer, use Mimblewimble. I mean, that's an awesome thing. I mean, if you can take crypto directly, I mean, to me, I'd take crypto directly over anything else.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we need better applications that make it easy for people to accept crypto, just like they accept cash. Because a lot of businesses, even if cash was banned, they'd probably still accept it, because there's very little risk of them getting caught accepting cash. So if it gets to that point, then it's really hard for the government to regulate. If they put in laws, people, as long as they have decent access to privacy and there's low risk of them getting in trouble, they probably still would accept it, right? If we're in an environment that is what you believe it is and what I believe too, introduction of CBDCs, banning of cash, there needs to be an opt-out way for people to do it privately and with little risk to getting caught. And if we have that, then it doesn't really matter what governments say or enact in legislation. So hopefully we can move that forward. Because the way it's trending right now is just towards centralized custodians and Coinbase. These exchanges are getting super huge, almost too big to fail, and that's worrying. I think building up the white market is, in a sense, building up the threat. It'll make it harder if so many people get trapped in those institutions long term.
No, and that's what they're ushering in, though, in my mind. Real quick story. I don't know. A lot of people have heard it, but, we're trying to cross the streams here, and there's a lot of people you bring in that have never heard me say the certain things I do. But I look at it this way. And Johnny, he actually used this story. He says, hey, I'm going to use your analogy at the Litecoin Summit this year. And he did, which was pretty cool. So I've always said that, listen, it's a Sunday afternoon and you got a used car for sale, you know how it is. You post it on Craigslist. You're like, oh my gosh, somebody wants to come look at this. Who's this guy going to be? Who's this person, coming onto your property, wanting to buy the car. And so,
Mhm.
so somebody comes on, the property, likes the car, wants the car, wants you to sign over a title to the car so they can walk away, drive away with your physical product. What are you going to take as payment on a Sunday? You got to ask yourself, what's legit to me? And are you going to take a personal check? I absolutely would not take a personal check. Would I take a cashier's check? No, because the thing with a cashier's check, it's only as good as the bank that writes it. And in 2008, we had the whole banks not trusting each other, and they wouldn't even cash cashier's checks. And so you don't even know if it could be a fraudulent check. You don't know. How are you going to test it? Same with gold and silver on a weekend. How are you going to test the gold and silver? Because there's a lot of fake gold and silver out there. You never know. If the coin shop's not open, you don't have the testing equipment, and somebody gives you a good chunk of gold and silver for your vehicle, it's going to be gone. You're never going to get it back. Are you going to trust that transaction? Same with cash. I mean, if it's a counterfeit bill and you really can't tell, I mean, you don't have all the ink pen, the yellow marker, that kind of thing. So if you're on a Sunday and you're like, I just want to get this guy out of here, I don't like him hanging around my property, take the car. The best form of payment to me is cryptocurrency, because that is what the network is there for. The network validates that transaction to where it shows up in your wallet. It's good. All of those questions go out the window. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do any work. The network did all the work. And to me, the best form of payment would be Litecoin. I would take Digibyte too. Bitcoin, they don't put a big enough fee in and be waiting for hours. I sent a Bitcoin transaction and the wallet didn't put enough in there. I should have upped it. I waited a day and a half for a transaction. I mean, it's so frustrating. But with Litecoin, you don't have that problem. Give it 5 minutes, and it's okay. A few transactions or confirmations, you're good. Get out of here. I got my money, and then I can do whatever I want with it. If I want to turn it into cash, if I want to do this, that, buy something, use BitPay to go buy stuff, I can do that. Number one coin on BitPay, Litecoin. I mean, hello.
Exactly. I think that's an important point you make that the vast majority of people don't really understand is the differences between money and credit. Cryptocurrency natively on the chain is money. And so it's final settlement. Once you have enough confirmations, you're sure that it's yours, you possess it, you can send it to whoever. And what you were saying with even a cashier's check, right? It's still a form of credit.
Yeah, you got to take it to the bank, and your bank might not accept it. It's like, I don't know this bank. Let me make some phone calls. Let me check and just make sure. Okay, we'll take it, but we'll put a 5-day hold on it. It's like, it's my money and I want it now. That kind of thing.
Exactly. And
you took my car.
Even if it gets deposited into your bank, you don't know if you go try
to hold it and say, well, what's this transaction for? It's like $11,000, and you go in and want to take the cash out. Then they're going to say, well, what are you using this cash for? And where did it come from? And what are you going to do with it? And I mean, that's on the books. I mean, they have to ask you that if it's a $10,000 transaction. So, I mean, all that goes away with cryptocurrency to me. And that's the world I want to live in. I want to live in that peer-to-peer world to where, the money I have, the energy that I put into the money that I choose to use is going to work for me whenever I want to use it. That's why I like silver. That's why I like Litecoin. I mean, and other chains. And it's not just one size fits all. It just, that fits me, those things,
For sure. Yeah. That's the key piece in crypto is the cost of validation is much lower. Even if you compare to gold and silver, which are, forms of money, it's hard to assay them or verify the purity sometimes. The cost of making sure your gold bar is 100% pure gold can be quite
expensive. That'd be a nightmare, because you don't know. It could be tungsten plated with a little bit of gold on the outside. Now
exactly. What? But with crypto, you know for sure that the quality and quantity is 100%. So
right, the difference between Litecoin and Litecoin Cash, right?
I remember that. That was a funny thing. I
don't know what happened. Litecoin Summit, like right around then, they did like a fork or the airdrop, like 10-1 or something. It's done nothing.
Does that even exist anymore?
It does. I saw it pump the other day, but I don't know where the market is for it. Somebody's tracking it, but it's not worth anything.
Yeah, I don't even see it on.
I think it's LCC something. I think that's what it is. It's probably still illiquid.
Maybe it got delisted. Oh, Litecoin Cash perpetual something here. It'd be interesting to see if it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's not listed at hardly any exchanges.
I don't think you can get it anywhere other than the airdrop. At the time.
Gotcha.
But that's the interesting thing with Litecoin to me. You look at the friction and the turmoil that Bitcoin went through. And it's a competitive network to where you've got Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, you got Bitcoin SV, you've got all these forks, Bitcoin Diamond, Bitcoin Gold, all this stuff. That steals energy away from, and those networks aren't as secure. You take Bitcoin Cash, for instance, I have no problem with it. I mean, but the thing is, with using it, but the problem is, as far as a long-term store of value to me, it's like it's using SHA-256, the same mining algorithm that Bitcoin uses. What happens if, all this, the mining power wants to come over to Bitcoin Cash and, be nefarious? And, why be competitive with it? That's why I like Litecoin. It's a whole different algorithm. Instead of dividing, it's bringing together. And I hear talk about, got the hat right here, make America great again. We got that at the Litecoin Summit. It's, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and Bell's Coin. I mean, and then there's talk of other coins being merge mined on the Litecoin network. I mean, with the same equipment. To me, that just strengthens the network going forward. You're never going to have a problem to where it's only going to be transaction fees, in the future, because, okay, all the supply of Litecoin's mined out in 100 years. You still got Dogecoin creating 10,000 Dogecoin per block. So you're going to keep mining it, which therefore supports the Litecoin network. So it's just symbiotic relationship of cooperation that I really like about the whole ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super cool. I want to ask you some thoughts on price. I know you don't comment on it too much.
Oh, I will. I can get crazy sometimes, like on late night Friday night spaces. I might get nuts. So you might hit me at the right time.
First, based on when you got into the space, did you ever imagine the LTC BTC pair going to this low of a level? We're at 1,000 to 1 basically right now.
Yeah, and it went to like a little over 1,100 to 1. And
Yeah.
I've been kind of screaming it. I said, if I had any Bitcoin, I would put it into Litecoin right now. Because, I mean, it's the same thing with me, why I got into Litecoin, why I got into silver, because I look at, okay, I've got gold that's $2,700 an ounce. I got silver that's like $31 an ounce. They both do kind of the same thing. And I mean, just because somebody, thinks this piece of art is worth more than this piece of art, well, this piece of art, I think is very valuable and it's useful to me. And again, 1 ounce of gold, not everybody, if I want to go pay for anything with an ounce of gold, to somebody, I mean, you got to go to the right person. Not everybody's got that kind of money to cash it out and, or have something in return. Silver, just stack it up. I mean, okay, here's 3 silver coins. Okay, there's $100. And to me, it's just much more portable. I shouldn't say portable, but much more useful as far as the everyday person. And same thing with Bitcoin to Litecoin. And I see that, again, gold and silver ratios, it's like 7 to 1, 8 to 1, how it gets mined out of the ground. Well, why is it not an 8 to 1 ratio, gold to silver? And silver gets used up in solar panels and all this different stuff. Gold never gets used up. Same with Bitcoin. It's not going to get used up at this point. People are going to hodl that stuff. They're going to hang on to it. And it's just kind of, the ratio's out of whack. I mean, to me, I don't want to pay up for something just because somebody tells me that it's the next greatest, best thing. I know what works. I see that it's undervalued. I'm going to take that gift. And, anytime I can get Litecoin for under $100, to me, that is an amazing gift, because let me do the numbers real quick. If you've got 8 billion people in the world and there's 84 million Litecoin, that's only 0.01 Litecoin per person if distributed equally. 0.01, 1/100th of a Litecoin per person in the world. And if you buy 1 Litecoin, that's like 100 people. You're like 100 times ahead. And I mean, for the youths and to me, it's just the numbers are a no-brainer to me. And at some point, fundamentals matter, and it will happen. It's just, how long does it take? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think if you take the view that eventually these networks will be adopted as money and utilized, then it's an extremely high reward, very low risk to take, because the network activity obviously is holding up every bear market. It's not decreasing, it's only increasing. And at some point, if that network activity continues to go up, it'll force price up, because that's fundamental demand. The counter argument, I guess, against it is that if governments do control these monies and they force us all on a Bitcoin standard and then, implement monetary policy on the Bitcoin, and then we just all use the paper Bitcoins, then maybe Bitcoin price would continue to go up. But I agree with you. I think that
Then
at
it's no different than holding a stock at that point. You might as well
yep,
just buy stocks. You might as well just buy into their system and be happy with it and have nothing. And
for sure.
but that's not why I'm in it. I'm in it for like real effective change to where we can actually break free from this. I mean, if you don't fix the monetary system, this is going to go on forever. And if we allow them to hijack, a monetary system that was created to circumvent them, then we lose again. And it's like, I refuse to participate in that. I'm just not going to. And, to my loss, I guess. But, it doesn't matter to me. I can sleep at night. I know that I'm not a part of a vampire casino. I'm not supporting the same old players, the new boss, same as the old boss crap. I'm just not willing to do it. I'm just not.
I agree, and I think more individuals will realize that too if they're put under certain external conditions, right? Eventually, people will resist at some point, right? If inflation is much higher in the future, if it's instead of a few % a year, which I know the government numbers are somewhat manipulated quite heavily, actually.
Sure.
But as soon as people really start to feel the pain, they will say enough of this, just like you've done. We'll see. I don't know if there's as many people as strong as you are. I think a lot of people just do what they're told, but I think there's a decent chunk of people out there that will be willing to.
Yeah, there are, and I've met them, and and I talk to them a lot, and the people I interact with, it's not a great big group of people, but the people I do are pretty hardcore, and they get it, and they're just tired of getting kicked around. I mean, they just want they want to be valued for their work, their efforts, their labor, and be able to have something that they can control. And I mean, you used to be able to do that with Bitcoin, but I hate the trend that it's just, hey, this government's putting this much in Bitcoin. They're going to do this. They're going to lock it all up, and you're not going to have access to it. And the only way, and they'll roll your retirement into it. And you're going to feel good on paper. But the thing is, it's going to be the same way as it is now, to where if you've got a retirement and you want to take money out, look at the hoops you have to jump through, the penalties you have to pay. The same thing will happen if it's denominated in Bitcoin. Yes, you can go spend it. Hey, we'll transfer it in, PayPal dollars, and you can go spend it anywhere you want, and they're going to keep it, and you're not going to get it back out. Now, that's not freedom to me. Now, if you want to keep playing their game and jumping through their hoops and, getting humiliated, the rest of your life, then continue to do the same thing. But you might have a nice car to drive around in, and maybe a McMansion and, maybe a boat. And if you're good with that, you know what? Good on you. I'm just not good with that.
For sure. I like your view on these things. We need more of that. The social group I interact with is kind of the opposite. So I'm glad to hear that, because that gives me hope for the future of this space.
I'm very hopeful, and I've met a lot of people like that, and I see it a lot in the Litecoin community. I've always said, I've used the analogy that Litecoin is kind of that coin that it's like a lighthouse to me, to where we're about a bunch of wandering boats out there. Like, what the heck? We're wandering out in the darkness, and we're getting tugged this way and that way on the waves. We don't know what the heck's going on, but we're still paddling. And then you see this lighthouse, and you kind of get drawn together. And to me, it's drawn a very strong, like-minded community together that is focused at the underlying layer on sound money. At a deeper level as humanity, we want freedom, and that is a tool of freedom, and we need to use it as such. And I'll tell you what, if I need something, if I need a freaking freezer or something, I can pay with Litecoin. I need a generator, I can go pay with Litecoin. And I really don't look at the price, because I look at it as an asset, for an asset that gives me, comfort and reality, that gives me something I need. And I have the ability to use that. And so it's my bank account, it's my unit of exchange, unit of account. And at some point, other people will see that, and it'll be, if you want to talk about price, it'll go way up. I mean, the fundamentals are there. There's only so much to go around. It's like tomorrow you're going to have a pumpkin pie. If you get 20 people and there's 8 slices of pie and they all want a piece, it doesn't work.
No, for sure. It's interesting, because a few days ago I was talking about this, how the narrative around Bitcoin early on was very similar to the narrative that you're
it was
playing right now. It was all about that, and then at some point it switched, and now it's almost as if Litecoin is, the community in general is more focused on the things that Bitcoin maximalists claim to be principled on, but have diverged so far. I wanted to ask you again, back on price, last question on that.
Sure.
For like this market cycle, since we've been talking a lot on the stream about, potential parabolic blow off top as we've seen in Bitcoin in the past. I don't know if you want to comment on specific price targets, but where do you see like LTC, BTC heading through the top of this market cycle? If you had to just throw
Yeah,
darts.
I mean, I like your thesis of, hey, we kind of skipped a cycle. It just didn't work out in 2021. It still had a higher high, which is a good thing. Some coins didn't, and that's one thing I'm a little suspect on XRP. From 2017 to 2021, it did not break its high from the prior cycle. Litecoin did slightly, but it did. So there is that uptrend. But there are other factors, and I think, having skipped that cycle, I mean, you see the pent up demand or potential demand that's there with the minor reserves going down. I mean, the stuff getting scooped up. When it blows, it blows. I mean, it can go. I mean, if you think about it, some people, they get outlandish. I mean, Bitcoin doesn't have to go up that much more. It could go up to $150,000 between now and the end of the next cycle, which could be March, May, maybe December of next year. I find it hard to believe that we could stretch it out that long, but let's say we do. Let's say it goes to $150,000. I mean, with everything that's pent up in Litecoin right now, as you've mentioned many times, look at what XLM did. And what's XLM do? I mean, it's not a finite asset. There's half of it, just like XRP, stored up. And I mean, it's just like when that energy comes in and that awareness comes in and that recognition comes in, I think that, will it go 4-to-1? I don't know. I mean, there's just so much built into Bitcoin that won't allow that, I don't think. But I mean, I would see, will it go 50-to-1? Yeah, I could absolutely see that. Could it go 20-to-1? Yeah, I could see that. I mean, and so whatever that price range is, do the math. But yeah, it's got a lot of catching up to do. A lot of catching up to do. If it doesn't go 100-to-1 in this cycle, I'll be really shocked. That's a 10 times gain from where it's at right now.
I would agree 100%. I think that its price has been so it's just been sideways up and down within this range for multiple years that it's not attracted the trend following money. But because the volatility is so compressed, because the supply restriction is so extreme, if the data that we're looking at is indeed accurate, which I believe it is, and the level of network divergence between price and how much real economic value it's transacting, we should see a crazy explosion to the upside. And I know a lot of people make fun of those types of price targets, but if you think about this in context, it's entirely possible. And because,
it is.
Like we were just saying with XLM and XRP, they made
look at Solana in the last 2 years. I mean, I remember Solana last year sometime, 2023, being at like $8. And now it's what, $230? And what's it do? I mean, you can build all these things on it that really don't have any value. I mean, and then it, it doesn't work all the time. I mean, holy cow. Now you've got a network that's been running for 13 years straight plus and never had an interruption. And I mean, where else are you going to put your money, that you feel secure?
Exactly. Yeah. There's a huge difference to make in pointing out between those types of networks, like these proof of stake chains that really only benefit because they're like altcoin casinos. So Solana had a lot of underlying demand because people were wanting to trade meme coins on top of Solana. But that activity comes and goes really quickly. So you're taking extremely high risk by buying into that chain if there's no fundamental driver for demand outside of the speculative casino. Whereas with Litecoin, it's pretty consistent linear growth in demand with a clear fundamental catalyst at a time where there's not much more supply available. You talked about there'd be like 0.1 or 0.01 LTC.
0.01. That's it per person in the world. That's it.
But how many people? Yeah, exactly. There's almost none to go around. And then once the narrative changes, how many people would be willing to sell you their Litecoin for
Right. And that's all it takes is once the narrative shifts, all these things that we've been talking about for years and I've been preaching for years, everybody will start preaching it and say, well, there's only 0.01 per person and how many have been lost? And, so that's really only 0.005, and all these things are going to come back, and they're probably going to come back in the next 6 months to where everybody's going to be talking about this. And you see it on X, you see people coming out of the woodwork and charting and doing all these things.
Mhm.
You're seeing it the bubbling up right now. And so,
Exactly.
I mean, 100 to 1 to me to Bitcoin is probably a little disappointing, to be honest with you. It really is. If that's all it does, just from the standpoint of all the fundamentals, it'd be different if, well, the hash rate's kind of crappy. It's not doing a whole lot there. And, I mean, the miners are still holding over 10 million of them. I mean, if it were kind of going that way to where, and these exchanges, they got a few million each, and but that's not the case. I mean, all the fundamentals, all the use cases, BitPay for months, Litecoin's been the number one coin used as far as payments. You look at the transactions, you look at the wallets, being created, you look at all of the numbers, say that it should be just through the roof. It's just the price. And once price catches on, you see how it is. Everybody wants a meme coin once the price, just explodes. They're like, I got to get it. Dogecoin broke 30 cents. How do I get Dogecoin?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny.
XLM, where do I buy XLM? That's what everybody's asking. Where do I get XRP?
Human psychology is so funny because
it's nuts.
Generally it's the opposite. In most any other product or service or market, people want to buy stuff when it's cheap, except in cryptocurrency, even in stocks, right? Because people want to buy something undervalued relative to how much earnings the company's generating or whatever.
They don't want to miss out on the rocket. They're like, I got to get on, at least to have a seat in the back next to the engine. I don't care. I just got to get on this rocket. I got to go to the Mars, moon. And that's just the mentality of it. And it's like, when I was a little kid, I'd go shopping with mom, and we still had Kmart's everywhere, and they'd roll out the blue light special in aisle 12. They'd roll out this laminated wooden box with this pole with a blue light on top, and they'd put it in the aisle and say, hey, for this product, for the next 10 minutes, it's on sale. It's 30% off, and people go over to that aisle and buy it. And it's like, when it's on sale, that's kind of human nature. You want to buy it, right? Well, in crypto, it's a whole different thing. It's just like this emotional craziness. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you've had 7 years, folks. I mean, when this thing explodes, don't say you weren't told and warned. I mean, the fundamentals we've been laying them out, and that's why I think it's important you doing what you're doing right now, and because anything under $100 is ridiculous. This monthly candle, the weekly candle, close at about the same time this week. I'm hoping that we see if we want to see a healthy, if we want to see a healthy, movement going forward, I think, a healthy movement going forward, I'd like to see about a 115 close on the week, the month. If we do that, anything over that's really ultra bullish. I mean, if we closed at like 120 or 125 here in the next couple of days, that's huge.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. Anything over 3 digits is good, but the higher the better going forward. And I think that really launches us, because if you really look at the long-term chart, once you get past like 120, you're kind of getting up into feel out zone. That water to where things really run. So
if it can relatively outperform some of these other cryptos, which it has a high chance of doing because of the fundamental demand and the supply restriction. People will chase
narrative built in, baby. It's got it all.
And it does. It's just people don't see it. So people have for so long been making fun of me and a lot of other people online, just laughing because the price hasn't moved. But it's so funny because, it has one of the most compelling fundamental stories from my view. I wonder what you think, and I'll only ask you a few more questions because I don't want to.
No, that's fine. You take all the time you want.
So there's this narrative in crypto specifically around chains like Bitcoin Cash or Dogecoin that have billionaires supporting them. Like with Bitcoin Cash, you had Kim.com and Roger Ver. And then with Dogecoin, you have Elon Musk. But if you look at transaction activity for Bitcoin Cash, and if you adjust Dogecoins to filter out all the ordinals and like super low value transactions, they're doing about 20,000 economically relevant transactions a day versus Litecoin's 200,000. So why do you think, despite the narrative that Elon and these billionaires can create adoption for the chain, they haven't been successful at all despite their influence. Well, like, what do you make of
No, I
that?
think they rode the wave, and I think Elon rode that wave because Dogecoin was moving up because Dogecoin was undervalued. I mean, because the network potential that it had, because it's using the same equipment as Litecoin, and so it maybe took a lot of thunder away from Litecoin. That's one narrative in the last cycle, which is fine. I mean, because ultimately, we're all going to win together. But I think Elon kind of jumped on that bandwagon, and people gave him too much credit for the Doge pump. Yeah, it probably pumped it more than it should have, but I mean, I looked at it as a positive thing to where people got interested in crypto, and at least they got interested in Dogecoin, which a lot of people say, "Oh, it's a meme coin." It's like, yeah, I mean, it isn't. It isn't. I mean, it's still proof of work. It's still, part of the Litecoin chain. So, I don't worry about that so much. But here's the thing: if I look at, I've always been a contrarian. When I see people in the establishment kind of selling me something, I tend to look at something else. And so when they're trying to, get me into something, because again, they're not going to come out and tell you that, well, you need to buy this, and they haven't bought it. It's like Jamie Dimon and all his FUD, all that crap that went on for so many times, steering the market with all his comments. And the thing is, he's buying it on the backside, or it's, hey, don't get into this. This is dangerous, but they're holding it on their books. Or, hey, now's the time to buy this. When all the millionaires come out and tell me this is the time to buy it, I get a little suspect because they probably already got their bags full. And now they're trying to get us in for exit liquidity so they can dump on us and then buy it back cheap. So I really, I don't like that. And I do like the fact that, with Litecoin, you don't have that. You don't have that pump and dump founder that's talking about that stuff. And it's more, put your nose to the grindstone and build some stuff into it. And I don't know. Again, it's a contrarian call. I mean, Litecoin's the biggest contrarian call in crypto if you're a contrarian.
For sure.
If all the sheep are going one way, are you going to get in the herd?
Exactly.
I
like
that you have that. End well.
It's almost identical to mine because I think it's pretty telling that despite all of the hype around these coins over Litecoin, they're significantly trailing. Like they're 10x lower than Litecoin in terms of adoption. It's just interesting how 99% of the people don't see that or aren't paying attention to it, to me. And yeah, you're right. It's not marketed. Even sometimes it's censored, right? Like Charlie Lee was going to speak at a conference recently, and they didn't even show him when he's one of the OGs of the whole space.
He's been there since day one. You go look at the old Bitcoin documentaries, and he's going to conferences, and it's like, this guy's been around, man. I mean, this is not some guy that's new to the scene buying bananas with duct tape,
Yeah, I think if we had that marketing and people influential were pumping, the price would be way higher. I'm sure. But
I look at it, no, and that it's a good thing to me because they will be doing it and everybody will be talking about it. And it's just, it gives the little guy an opportunity to get into it at an affordable level. I mean, it's just like buying Bitcoin before I bought Bitcoin. I mean, it's like buying Bitcoin in 2012, and it's just, and you're going to see, I think, again, not financial advice. I think you're going to see a return very quickly in the next 6 months. It's going to be a parabolic move, and there's not going to be anything stopping it. The narratives are all going to fall into it because it has the real narratives. It's got the real fundamentals, and everybody's going to hang on to it. Every influencer, every YouTuber is going to be talking about it, and it's just going to go absolutely stupid. And be glad that you trusted yourself and didn't listen to anybody else, because that's the hardest thing. Everybody calls you, oh, you're an idiot. Oh, yeah, but you just got to trust yourself. Look inside. All that BS out there, they're not looking out for you. Look out for yourself. And when you know in your gut that it's right, just do it. What's a $100 bill? Buy one Litecoin. If you haven't.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah, obviously not financial advice. Anything can happen, but given the setup and kind of the history that both Clint and I have been around a long time, seeing these things play out, there's a high chance that this does catch up. And then because it's so undervalued, and because, like Clint was saying, it's sort of like buying Bitcoin in 2012, right? If you do a supply adjustments 4 times the supply, so it's like buying Bitcoin at $400. And the network stats are similar to where Bitcoin was in 2017. But the path for growth is so much more extreme, because if Bitcoin fees do rally in a parabolic blow off top, then a lot of that activity can be transported over to Litecoin very quickly. Whereas Bitcoin in 2017, it had to keep going out and getting new users, right? It was limited by fees. People stopped using it. With Litecoin, you still have 10x capacity for growth, right? Blocks aren't full until transactions get to 2 million and 200K. And it can import a lot of higher value transactions because the hash rate is high enough to secure those. So the path for growth can actually be way more extreme than Bitcoin was, and it can happen much faster.
Well, think about it. Think about it this way: for Bitcoin at this point, and I hate talking dollars, but that's what everybody can relate to. We're still in that system. I mean, Federal Reserve notes, not real dollars. And just know that 1913. Go read the book, G. Edward Griffin's book. The Creature from Jekyll Island, and learn about your financial system and how you've been hijacked of your energy for over 100 years. That's why we're in this stuff. But if you look at Bitcoin right now, to make it double from let's say $100,000 a coin to $200,000 a coin, how many trillions have to come in to do that? Mm-hmm. What's Litecoin's market cap? And I know that's all flawed, but right now, what is it, like $6 billion?
Yeah, roughly $6 billion.
Okay, so if you take $100 billion going into Litecoin, what's that do to the overall price? And then Taylor just raised $3 billion out of thin air yesterday and bought Bitcoin. That's half the market cap of Litecoin.
Exactly. And it's
ridiculous. Look at the fundamentals, the numbers.
Yeah, there's so many holders of Bitcoin that want out. That's why they're pumping this Bitcoin strategic reserve. They don't really care about the government being more responsible. That's just kind of a narrative. They want higher prices so they can exit. So they're trying to put themselves.
Exactly. And that's all it is. So they can get their yacht, so they can get the things they want. They can get their Lambos. They can buy the property. They can do those things. And it's had a pretty big move, bigger than I thought it would. I didn't think it'd go to 100,000 this year. Well, I guess it hasn't yet. We'll see what happens. But I said that in March when it was pumping at like $73,000. Everybody, it's a no-brainer. It's going to 100,000. I'm like, I don't know what it's going to. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. And so we'll see what happens. We'll probably get close
for sure. But yeah, the market's extremely liquid above 100K. There's so much sell pressure there, and then with Litecoin, the multiple should be much higher, meaning like every dollar that tries to buy it should push up the market cap, 10, 20, 30x, depending on what the price level is at the time that people are trying to buy. But there's just not going to be much supply available above 115 or so.
Hey, the longer this goes, the better it is and more explosive it's going to be. And it's gone a long time already. Again, we missed the last cycle when it should have been over, $1,000 the last cycle. Should have been. Absolutely should have been, and it didn't. And so you've got that compression, and it's like, my grandparents used to have an in-ground pool we used to go to, and I would go, and I'd hold the ball down at the bottom, just take the ball and swim down to the 8-foot bottom where the drain is and hold it down as much as you can, and then you let it go. That's how I envision Litecoin at this point, but now it's not an 8-foot bottom. It's like a 50-foot bottom, the hole in the ground to where they're just holding it. And at some point you can't hold it anymore. And it just goes. And it's going to be so parabolic that people are going to be shocked. What you saw with XLM was amazing. It was like 4x in like what, 2 weeks? Mm-hmm. But then you look at the fundamentals, and it's like, okay, with XLM, you got one address, just like Ethereum, just like XRP. That is the wet dream of the socialists. They can see every transaction you've ever done throughout history. To me, that you're just... They love those coins because it's total enslavement. That is totally not what we're in for. We want sound money. We want to be able to have privacy. We want, who wants to continue to perpetuate this vampire casino? I don't. I don't want them, in my business. That's why we have this thing. This is separate from them. And that's how I look at things. It's like digital silver, digital gold. That's how we should be looking at it.
100%. I agree. It's interesting you said that price should have gone higher. It does correspond with miner reserves dumping, and actually that huge miner that was dumping actually, it's called TB Dice, and it was a rug pull scam. The pool operator basically ran off with everyone's coins, and so it is possible that had that not happened, this guy didn't run off with the coins, that price could have gone higher. But now, because it's been suppressed so long, and most of the coins have been taken by long-term holders or users of the network, it should be.
That'd be a good research project, because to me, I think a lot of the stuff since, I mean, even before, but I mean, really in earnest in 2017, because you had futures come out, and I think that did a lot to the Bitcoin price. I'd be curious to see a doctoral thesis on this whole Litecoin thing, to see where was the money that created that exchange, behind, who did he have lunch with? I mean, I'd be really curious just to kind of see the connections of, that whole exchange and what that really means, and, in the overall scheme of things. You want to put your tinfoil hat on,
I know. I'm surprised because I couldn't find any news articles about it. There were a lot of people trying to report this guy who ran off with all those coins to the police, but that entity had been sending coins to Binance, so it should have been reported. There's nothing online that you can find, so it's really weird.
Yeah, I think a lot of these things, I mean, you look at FTX, you look at a lot of these things that went under, were I guess you could say 3-letter agency fronts to skim you out of your real coins. And that's how I look at it, because they understand, how valuable these things are going forward. And a lot of the news cycles, again, when I see something in the mainstream and I see something being pumped and something being ignored, I tend to go and do the research on the thing that is being ignored. Again, I'm just a natural contrarian. And again, to my detriment, I guess, because I could have been in a lot better position now if I had been focusing on the cash and number go up, but that's just not my path. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. How do you psychologically deal with that? Because
it's tough. I mean, either I have cognitive dissonance, or I can, you got to learn to kind of play in two worlds at one time, to where you understand what's happening. It's, some people go nuts because of that thing. I guess that's why I drink in the bar. But it's you kind of get to the point to where you see the reality and you see the illusion, but then you see the fundamentals, I guess the reality on the other side, and you just know that at some point it's got to work itself out, and I don't know. I'm willing to play the long game, just because I'm not going to be a slave, and I'm not going to, you're not going to buy me. You can't pay me off. I'm not going to play that game. I'm in it for the victory for us against them kind of thing, vampires versus humans. And that's just kind of how I look at it in big paintbrushes, big strokes.
Because I notice a lot of people in the community get super upset, and I try to give them an understanding of why price has done what it's done, like doing this analysis and explaining. And I feel like if people have an understanding, then they might be less distraught mentally. But it's hard. It's even hard for me sometimes, because you see like a 13-year-old on TikTok outperforming you, who's just trend following. Usually, though, you don't hear the aftermath of that. Very few of those people actually.
It's like these people that go to the casino and said, "Oh yeah, I just won $200," but they don't tell you about all the times they lost 500. 10 times before that. You know what I mean? It's kind of that. They're kind of ashamed, and they want to call out their victories, but let's not talk about the defeats, because they're losing, because that casino is very pretty and the lights are always on, so somebody's paying it.
Yeah, so if you're out there and looking at screenshots online of people posting like $1 million of unrealized meme coin profits, they've probably, lost a lot of them, or had a bunch of failures prior. So
do they have a referral link in their bio? Because if they do, that's how they're getting paid.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of traders out online that primarily just sell courses. They don't really profit from actual trading.
Right. No, exactly. Because if you think about it, I mean, look at the people who, it's interesting that you'd mentioned, how things have changed since 2017. Do you see a Trace Mayer out there? I mean, do you see Andreas Antonopoulos out there very much anymore? The hardcore fundamental people. Roger Ver was out there for a long time, beating the drum, and you kind of don't see those people anymore. I mean, they could keep kicking along and saying, "Hey, here's my next shill that I'm going to do," but I don't think they were really shilling. I mean, I think they were in it for the right reasons, and I think they might have gotten to the point to where that frustration does get to you, and you're just, I don't want to become a misanthrope and hate humanity because they just don't get it, and maybe you just kind of walk away and say, "You know what, I'm gonna do things elsewhere and kind of get out of the public eye a little bit." And there's only so much you can do. I've given my message. Go back and watch the videos. Kind of attitude. I told you what was going to happen.
I really liked a lot of those guys,
Oh, I
Andreas
know.
and Trace, both of them. But once Trace started supporting, I think he started supporting like Mimblewimble coin or something. The speculative community just gave him so much hate that I'm
Oh yeah,
sure.
the Bitcoin community hated on him, because he talked about that kind of stuff. And I guess you get to a point, you're like, okay, fine, F it. I'm
Yeah.
fine. I don't need this.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think really after this speculative cycle, I can't foresee another one in my head right now, given where we're at as an economy globally. I don't think we're going to be trading meme coins on Coinbase for another 10 years. It just
No, I don't think so. And we do a show, just to talk about it. Every Thursday. I don't know if we're doing one tomorrow, but we've done it for like 73 weeks in a row now. Blind Dave has a channel. Shout out to him, and he does a program, a show called Hash It Out on his YouTube channel. And it's me and Dave and Javier. Somebody in the community that's retired and had a small business, and then a guy from the Netherlands called Steak, and I never see his face. And that's cool, because he's just like, hey, I can't really show who I am. And he's got great information. And his thesis is that, hey, we're going to have regulation, and a lot of this stuff's going to go away because, for institutional investors, for governments to be involved, you can't have a lot of this garbage out there, this speculative Wild West casino. And a lot of this stuff might go away, going forward, and pretty quickly, because you see it happening in the European Union. That's what he's focused on. And Europe and America kind of are tied a little bit, and they got to trade, and they follow kind of the same framework. So yeah, there's something to be said about that. This could be the last cycle of the true speculation, and then we might get into real fundamentals going forward. Of listen, we want things to underpin economies; they have to be legit, and we just can't have this stuff anymore. And so we may be moving into that era. This may be the last cycle for kind of the nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I thought we'd get there much faster.
I know.
The governments have been able to kick the can down the road a lot longer than I thought was possible. And things always tend to run longer than I imagine. But we'll see. Hopefully, I know at some point that it'll either be adopted as money and potentially change a lot of people's lives, having more freedom, or it doesn't ever get to that point and it fails. But I'm on the side of I have a lot of hope and belief that individuals will rise up and demand.
Yeah.
If they're not
or you kind of, there's an alternative to where we just kind of go. I've always said, maybe I just go full, like I call it full steampunk, to where I embrace technology, but I only use the pieces of technology I want, and kind of, live in old school ways with technology, and kind of not participate full blown in the, smart city mentality, and everything's digitized and everything's controlled. I don't know. We're at an interesting point in history where things could go full Cyberdyne, like Terminator style. I mean, especially with the people that I see in the new administration, they give me some concern.
Mm-hmm.
And, I worry about that stuff because they're all into that. And, hopefully they're good people, but I don't know. Who knows what their motivations are? I don't know. And so you've got to really find people that you trust, surround yourself with those people, use the tools that are here, use those digital currencies that work, hold them in your own possession, and transfer value back and forth. And we just kind of have to, try to build like little kingdoms, I guess, little grassroots kingdoms if we can, and participate as little as possible, in my mind, with some of this, this giant bureaucracy.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah, the old saying was "Don't trust, verify." I think that kind of went away.
Absolutely. Do your research. Don't trust, verify. Yeah.
I think that's a good message for the newcomers to the space, for sure.
And you know what? Here's the thing that I would be. I don't want to not say this, because I look at this point now. There could be multiple cycles of crypto going forward. I look at this as my last cycle. And why I say that, it's not a dark thing or a bad thing. It's just, listen, I mean, if I had made certain moves in the last cycle, then I would have been in a better position. And I think all of us can say that, oh my gosh, I should have done this. I should have done this. And before I knew it, I'm waiting 4 more years. If you have an economic tool that has done well for you and it checks off a lot of freedom boxes that you never would have been able to check off, working your full-time job, like paying off a house, having a car that's paid off. Look at The Gambler, the movie with John Goodman and Mark Wahlberg. There's a famous speech in there, you need FU money. If you get to the point where you put yourself in a position to where you're kind of as much as possible free from that system, able to live your life and wake up every day and do the things you want to do. And if crypto can do that for you, if gold, silver, whatever it is does that for you, if it can do that for you on like a hyper time frame that it would have taken you 30 years in the past, and it does it in the next 6 months, you can't regret checking those boxes and having a life of freedom going forward, or as free as you can be. Again, if you're buying certain coins and they go up 10 times, 20 times, and you look around and you say, man, I could like change my life and put myself in a position to where I'm very stress free, you can't really put a price on that. So just bear that in mind. Take
That's
that
a good message for people.
Yeah,
because most of the newcomers to the space, or even people that have been around, have failed to realize profits when it could have changed their mind and end up round tripping everything. So it's important to keep that in context with where we're going. Likely nobody really knows because it's entirely speculative. So obviously make your own decisions, but yeah, don't forget to take profits. I'll do my best and I'll give you my honest opinion, but it's just what I'm doing, and that's not. Nobody can predict the future, so I can't guarantee you with 100%. Right,
but what you're doing is looking at history and looking at trends and saying, you know what, we might be getting pretty close. And I mean, come March, you may be saying, well, we might be getting kind of close here. It's getting a little toppy, or maybe it's May, whatever it is, and just hey, you might want to start thinking about checking boxes, if you got some boxes to check, because, and that's why it's important that you keep doing this. And that's why I appreciate that you're doing it. And I'm glad to be a part of it, because I just want people to live a life of no regret and make good decisions when they present themselves. And when the door opens, take advantage of it. And inevitably, you're going to say, oh, if I would have held on longer, I could have done better. But I'm telling you right now, and this is an important lesson to learn. When you're looking at the charts and you're looking at, whatever that big tall wick is, there's only one person that made a trade at that very top. And there's only one person that made a trade at that very bottom, so everybody else is somewhere in between. And so you got to really look at that and understand that. And it really comes down to you as an individual. What do you want out of life? You got to know who you are, what your passions are, and what your level of freedom is. And if it presents itself on a silver platter and you don't take it, you're going to regret not taking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's perfect advice for people. I'll never be like the influencers that promote higher prices just so I can exit and use people's liquidity. I'll always tell honestly what I think and what I'm doing personally.
Yeah.
But it is important, if you this opportunity I think that we have right now, over the next 3-6 months, whatever it may be, is may never happen again.
I agree. And so if you treat it mentally as, this is my last chance, this is the last cycle, because it could be. We have no idea what's going to happen in the next 4 years, in the next 8 years, 12 years. I mean, it could be a totally different world, and, everything could change and transform itself. And if you've got the ability to transform your life and, create that idealistic dream of who you want to be and where you want to be in 6 months, man, you're going to regret not making that happen. So just bear that in mind and keep focused on that. I'm going to be free, and I'm going to use the tools on that economic battlefield to make me free, and just pick them up, use them, and no regrets.
Exactly. Well, I don't have any other questions for you. I really do appreciate you coming on. This is the first time I've ever really interviewed someone or had a chat. I know it was super non-professional, just kind of conversational.
Oh, that's what I'm all about, man. Let's just do it. Let's do it live.
I appreciate you supporting this and being around.
Absolutely.
The chat.
Everybody in here, there's a lot of people that I see in the other shows that I'm in and the other chats. I mean, subscribe to this channel, at Litecoin on X. Subscribe to him, and then put your notification bells on, because he's going to be following the Litecoin price. I'm going to be in here following it with him, and just watching along. And let's build this community. Let's get the message out, and let's win together. That's really what this is all about. And I wouldn't be on here if I didn't think you had the right principles behind you. I mean, I really believe that you're in it for the people and not you're not shilling. I know that. So let's give you. I'm going to give you support, and everybody hit that like button, subscribe, put the notifications on, and let's watch this going forward, and let's win, baby, win.
Yes, I think we're gonna win for sure, 100%. And then also, Clint, last thing, your YouTube channel is it just Clint Westwood?
Yeah, I think it's if you go to youtube.com, I don't know how they do it. If you just search Clint Westwood, it should come up. If not, you can always go to down below where it says clintwestwood.net. It's got a direct link, but you should be able to search it. Maybe. And I'm usually I'll put out a few videos, not as many. I'm not as prolific as I used to be, but on Thursdays and Fridays I have a show that I do with Blind Dave on his channel. I've got a link on my website to him. There you go, and you can watch that. We do that 4 to 6 p.m. Central Time every Thursday, and then Fridays on the lovely Litecoin Lisa's YouTube channel. Go check her out, and then we do a happy hour and get into all kinds of stuff. Usually around 5 o'clock Central Time on Fridays. And then I do spaces after those, so if you follow me, you can chime in, and sometimes we'll go for 8 hours on spaces. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've sat and listened before. It's definitely a wholesome group of people that have the, win together mentality, and they're in it for the right reasons. So,
and we like to meet up, and that's why I do the meetups too. And so I'll do a few meetups a year. So, I mean, you guys want to just come and hang out and at the bar, and we'll do a live meetup, and, we'll go live and do a live happy hour, Lisa and I, and it's just good bringing the band back together. I sent that meme, of the Blues Brothers. We're putting the band back together. We're here for a reason. Let's make some noise.
Awesome. Well, I'll be at the next one, assuming
I love it.
Breaks out a little bit.
Yeah, next week.
Awesome to meet you in person.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
All right, Clint.
All right, kick me out of here.
Anything?
Thanks for having me. Now, trust yourself. That's the most important thing. Trust your gut, trust your instincts. All of it's inside, and you just gotta be good with who you are and what you're all about. I mean, trust yourself. You're gonna be right.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's the perfect message. And maybe we'll do this again in a few months down the road if you're down.
Yeah, anytime.
Okay. All right. Other thing too is, last thing, Grant's LTC Underground is another community member. He has spaces. They're always on Wednesday nights in about 9 minutes.
Well, he said tonight he's not going to have one.
He's not having it tonight?
So.
Okay. Dang.
Well, you can go on all night and do your show because he's not going to be on.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Clint. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
From here real quick. All right. See ya. Well, thanks to Clint for coming on here. That was really cool. I think he's one of the most genuine people in this community, and he's never really strayed from his message. And that consistency and commitment to those core principles is hard to find within the broader influencer space, because there's so many people just pumping and dumping, using their followers as exit liquidity. So you got to find the people that don't do that care about their followers more than themselves in some sense. Get out of the vampire casino. Yes. Well, thanks for everyone for watching this. I do appreciate it. I see Litecoin Lisa in the chat here. Thanks for coming. And yeah, appreciate you guys sticking around. This is my first time interviewing. I'm not always the best with that kind of thing. Actually, my first time. So appreciate the support. See Daddy Owen here. Marky. What's his ad on X for Clint? It's at _ Clint Westwood _ Mine is at W Litecoin. There's also a new Discord community. I don't know if Clint and Lisa have one, but I can post that in the chat real quick. There's quite a few people that joined that want to talk about all things fundamentals, technicals, news. So let me grab that link real quick. and post it down here in the comment section. Hi Litecoin Lisa. Great job. Thank you. I appreciate the support. I was going to reach out to you actually if you would be down to come on here. I think your story is super interesting with your mom who got you involved. I've heard it a few times, but I know there's like all these sub Litecoin communities that don't really know each other. So I'm trying to merge them because I think the power of one cohesive voice with a lot more people is a little bit stronger. Should Clint do spaces? I think since he's already at the bar, he probably should do one. I would join. 111. Yeah, we could end this and then head over to Clint's spaces. Is the purpose of this channel to provide financial freedom in dollars through the trading investing of Litecoin? I think to some extent, right? Like it's okay to speculate. I don't have any. We're all kind of doing that in a sense. I think there's this narrative that it's bad to buy something just for the purpose of selling it later, but we exist in the financial system that we exist in the markets that we exist in, and if there's an opportunity that presents itself where you fundamentally believe in something and it's undervalued, I think it's okay to make money off of that. I don't know if the purpose of this channel is really just for that. I think there's a lot of interest in technical analysis and trading, so I'm trying to appeal to that. I have a financial background, worked in investment management for a while, and so I'm trying to provide that education as well as talk about fundamentals. So it's not just one specific concept. It's really about explaining the fundamentals of why Bitcoin and Litecoin are valuable, what the real value prop of Litecoin is, because I felt like for so long the broader crypto community didn't understand it. So I'm trying to explain that from a fundamental point of view, and then also explain why in this market cycle, I think Litecoin has a really good chance of being one of the best, if not best, performing assets. So we're trying to do everything in a cohesive way, so people can understand fundamentals, technicals, maybe even the larger macroeconomic picture of what's actually driving prices. Not so fast as love interviewing with charts like this. Yeah, I didn't know what to show on the screen, but I know people like watching the price chart. Thanks, Daddio, for the compliment there. Master says Litecoin sound money for the digital age. Clint, yes, I think that's every time I think of Clint, that's what I hear in my mind. It's been imprinted. It's a catchy, good statement. That's true. Happy to join you anytime. Okay, perfect. I'll send you a DM later on after this. We can coordinate a time. I know we're supposed to have David Schwartz on here. We have Crypto Hitman, who's pretty popular. He's been really accurate in some of his technical analysis and recently became bullish on Litecoin specifically after being bearish the last few years. So we have him on, and then I'll have Tony the Bull as well, who's recently become quite popular to give his technical analysis, expert opinion, because he's also bullish here too. So it'll be cool to hear their various perspectives. Can help us learn. Cooking and drinking while spacing. What could go wrong? Sounds like fun. Clint Westwood is the wiser and brighter Max Kaiser of Litecoin. Yes, I would agree. Although Max Kaiser is a little more, a little delusional sometimes, I think. I'm here for gains. Well, yeah, it can be about both, like trading and focusing on fundamentals, or just trading itself too is fine. I don't think there's any problem with it. Yeah, I know him. He's a White Coffee, and yeah, him and Todd Butterfield have a group, and Todd, I think, overtook the original Wyckoff Institute. So he's an expert in the Wyckoff accumulation distribution type setups. See ya, Charlie. Kaiser, he was on Russia Today. His program, yeah, delusional. I mean, he's been right about a few things, but sometimes he just gets a little extreme. I don't know if it's for entertainment value or what, but he's an interesting character. I think he's entertaining, but I don't listen to his advice. It looks like we're moving up on the short-term time frames, though. Let's see if we can break above this previous resistance from Monday. Should just grind higher, and if we just need to get close to this 105 level, and I think we can break it. All right, see you, Lisa. Yeah, I'll probably end this as well, and then if Clint's gonna host a Spaces, I'll join in there. Unless you guys want to talk about something else in regards to Litecoin price or these pair charts. But there's not much really to update. I think maybe tomorrow. This could happen any day. The Litecoin Bitcoin pair looks extremely bullish to me. Definitely noticed a change in structure. Thursday the 14th. Again, following the same pattern as XLM. On all the indicators that I track, it looks bullish. So I'd say high likelihood this happens this week or next. All right, guys, thanks for joining in on the stream. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving, so I probably won't stream tomorrow, but I'll be back Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. That's the day we'll have Crypto Hitman on. So again, make sure to like, subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys Friday.
In a world where digital currencies reign supreme, one cryptocurrency is poised to redefine the game, no? Litecoin's resurrection and resurgence is coming, and the Litecoin forecast is your 24/7 guide to riding this silver surge. Join us as we stream continuously, analyzing every move, discussing macroeconomic trends, what's driving this bull market, what narratives will come into play as we move higher, and what we'll be watching for signs of a broad market top T. The Litecoin forecast illuminating the path to redemption, hosted by Litecoin, joining us now.